Oh my gosh, we have all of the animals here with us for today's episode.
Oh
I
yeah,
love it.
this is gonna get crazy.
It is. So, Katie Sweetman, I adore you. You're one of my favorite astrologers, and we've talked a few times on the channel. So, I wanted to have you back to talk about all of the wild shenanigans for 2024. I've got my two cats that hopefully they don't fight in the background, but listen, anything is possible. And you have dogs. So, what are the your dogs' names? You have one that's visiting, right? And one that's yours.
So Miguel is mine. He's a almost 3-year-old Marnital. So Miguel is an Aries. He was born on March 28th, and then his bestie is a Taurus, born just a few weeks later. I forget when in April, but his bestie, who's Finley, just likes to sleep and eat. But Miguel likes to just go hard. And true story, they play so much that when Finley goes back to his family, he just sleeps for like a day. But Miguel is just like, where's the party at? Like, let's go.
I think we all need friends like that, where we just friend so hard that we need to sleep for a day afterwards.
Yeah, they decided to friend really hard just as I've decided to record this.
I know right before I hit record, Katie was handed a dog toy. So if you see Katie throwing dog toys or you see me kind of pushing cat fur out of the way, you'll understand what's going on our end. And if you're watching and you have animals, comment and let us know what kind of animals do you have. And if you know their astrological sign, that would be fun to know too. I know one, my big cat, she's a desert lynx, she's a Gemini. And the other one, we don't know because I rescued him and they don't know when exactly he was born. So we just celebrate his adoption day, which is New Year's Eve.
Okay, so he's coming up for an adoption birthday.
Oh, yeah. So I talk to him every year about, hey, Frazier, here we go again. It's your adoption day. And we have a little conversation about it. So I am that cat mom.
I'm that dog mom.
I
So yeah.
love it. I love it. So Katie has she's on social media. She has a YouTube channel, Empowering Astrology. You can find her under Katie Sweetman or on social media. But I'll include all that info in the description of the video, so make sure you check out and follow her. And she does a lot of great videos regularly on YouTube talking about astrology forecasts, and she has a 2024 webinar and all that good stuff. So I know, Katie, that 2024 is like the prelude to 2025 and 2026. So I described it in, I think it was the video I did with Scott Terrian, another astrologer recently, and I said, we can't skip 2024 because there's going to be a lot in there. It's kind of like going into Walmart and seeing all of the Christmas decorations up, but we haven't even gotten through Halloween. So we've got to get
Haven't
through
gotten
20.
through like the summer yet. Like we're still like looking at flip-flops and the sunscreen, and it's gonna be 2025 before we know it. But yeah, we need to get through 2024 first before we can dive into the astrology of 2025 and 2026, which is when
Yeah.
things start shifting. What's gonna happen? I don't know. But it's like a bunch of the hands on the clock in 2025 and 2026 change. But
Yes. So it almost makes me wonder if 2024 is like the grand finale, right? Like you're watching some movie in the movie theater and it's like the big explosion and it's the final scene of the movie and it like the credits roll and then we're in 2025, which is a completely different animal. But I think we would be remiss if we didn't focus on 2024 and all of the things that it brings, because I think it's going to bring some really important things. So where do you want to start?
I'm gonna start. So I'm calling 2024 a bridge
The
because
bridge.
just because it's the lead up to Uranus changing signs in 2025, into Saturn, Neptune, although they change signs again in 2026, they do a retrograde and they go back. But I'm calling it a bridge because Pisces, which is where a lot of the action of 2024 is happening, is the bridge in the zodiac. It is the bridge between one end of the zodiac to another. It's a little bit of technical information as my dog is like chewing on a squeaky toy. But Pisces, it's the last sign of the zodiac. You know, Aries is your big explosions, like that's your Hollywood energy, because Aries likes to get big. But Pisces is quiet. And so maybe there is some quiet energy in 2024. Maybe it's not to say that the world is quiet, but Pisces by its nature wants us to bring us inside of ourselves. We've had to, and one of the reasons why Pisces is such a big focus in 2024 is because Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is one of the major hands on the astrology clock. So anytime I sit down and I look at the year ahead, or even if I look at your astrology or a client's astrology, I'm noticing where is Saturn, because that's pointing me as an astrologer towards the major focal point, one of the major focal points of the year for you. What are you learning? What are you building? What are you growing? What are you having to sort of reorganize? And in some cases, not everybody, of course, I'm sure everybody, this is not for everybody who's listening, but it could be a hard stop. We've reached a point where the choices and the actions that we've been making have lead us to a point where it just doesn't work anymore. And Saturn is telling us that. But I do love Saturn, even despite its astrology reputation in astrology, because it really can show where we can put a lot of concerted energy in the coming year and try to work with it and to create something with it. It's a very different energy than some of the other planets because it's very concrete. It's very black and white. It doesn't, you can't do surface with Saturn. You can't cut corners with Saturn. You have to show up. So overall, Pisces being the sign that brings us to the end of the zodiac, it brings us to the end of something individually. With coming to the end of something, depending on what your relationship is with the word endings, that might inspire some anxiety, but it's not meant to be that. Pisces brings us to the end of our physical lives, metaphorically speaking, because the zodiac is the wheel of life. And so when we reach Pisces, we've reached the end. It's not about our physical life anymore. It's about our spiritual life. In its best facet, what we are building, ironically, because Pisces is an immaterial sign, but we're building something emotional, spiritual. We are looking at, what do we value? Do I value, earning a living this way when I feel miserable? Do I value being in a relationship that doesn't feed me in the deepest parts of myself? Is something missing from my life? And a lot of us, I don't know, maybe I can't speak for everybody. We're searching for something and trying to find that thing or things that's going to help us make that deeper connection. But with Pisces, you have to find it within yourself. It's never going to be outside of yourself. And that's why Pisces can be a little bit of a maddening sign, because we want it, we want to touch it, we want to intellectually understand it. People tell me as an astrologer, Katie, just tell me what's going to happen. Like, is this going to happen? Or when is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? What is it going to look like? Am I going to make money? These are all earth questions. Earth energy is tangible, physical, it's money, it's matter, material. But with Pisces, we're not dealing with matter and material. So that's why I call 2024 a bridge, because it's not just right before possibly some major shifts in the astrology, but it's really bringing us to the edge of something so that we can cross it. However you want to define that for yourself.
I love that. Has Saturn been in Pisces already, or is it something that happens in 2024? So when can we expect to feel
That's
that?
a great question, actually. Saturn actually went into Pisces on March 7th of 2023. And you're like, well, when does Saturn leave? February 14th of 2026. There will be a little bit of a, I gotta look at the date, from May 25th of 2025 to September 1st of 2025, Saturn dips in and out of Aries. And then you're like, okay, well, that's no big deal. Saturn, in Pisces, but Saturn hasn't been in Pisces since 1994, 1995, and 1996. It's been a while. It's a 30-year transit. Saturn takes 30 years to go around the sun. So for those that are old enough, I was in high school, what was going on at that time? It's not to say that it's the same. Of course not. Like, are we even the same people we were in 1994, 1995, and 6? The consciousness of the planet is different, but there is a little bit of an echo of that time. So yes, it has already been happening since March of 2023, but it also hasn't happened since the 90s.
I know, it took me a second when you said it's a 30-year cycle. I was like, wait a second. The 90s were 30 years ago.
I know. I was on Instagram and there was this ad because I'm a cook and a baker, so that's what the algorithm shows me. And it was a 50-year anniversary special edition of the Cuisinart. And I'm like, thinking like 50 years ago is like 1950. And I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm 45. Like the 50 years ago was like 1973. So yeah, time flies.
I don't know how it happens. I really, time is so distorted. That's probably another conversation for another episode. But so with this Saturn and Pisces and it being such a significant piece of the story in 2024, do you think that people with mutable signs will feel it more? Or if somebody's looking at their astrology chart and they look at their Pisces house and they see that they have planets in there, do you think those will be activated? So who is likely to feel this the most?
It's a great question. Definitely the mutable signs are feeling the astrology, with some exceptions, the most. I say some exceptions because we have another planet we need to talk about, Pluto. But if you are a Gemini, Virgo, Sag, Pisces, this is a time in your life where it's about milestones. It's about the things that, God forbid, one day we will all die. And then when we die, the things that we remember, the things that we are remembered by are not the tiny small things. It's what was your name? What was your title? What did you do? Relationships, children. So Saturn speaks to those sort of things. I know it sounds very traditional, but Saturn is typically a very traditional planet. Saturn sort of makes us feel our life, our time, aging, karma. So for example, if you're a Virgo, the time for you with Saturn and Pisces is time for a relationship. For one person, that may mean getting in a serious relationship. For another person, it's a critical look at an existing relationship. For somebody for whom it might somebody in the hall. Good, I have to go check it out. But for somebody who, maybe it's not really about romantic relationships because that's not relevant for every last person. It's about really taking a critical look about relationships as a whole. Because as human beings, we need relationship as much as we like to be individuals and self-reliant. Astrology actually teaches us that we can't do life alone. So however you want to do that, whether it's traditional partnership, whether it's making sure that you have really good quality people in your life. So that's just an example. For Sag, kind of cherry picking for a second, it's about settling down. Of course, settling down means different things to different people. Different cultures have different definitions of what settling down means, but it's to really settle into your life. It's to focus on home and family. It's to maybe start a family, or maybe to make a move, or to reach these. So this is just to give you an example of what major milestones look like. It's not negative. It just sort of makes us feel life and time and the passage of time. And these are the signs that in 2024, the mutable signs may feel that they are really reaching some major life milestones.
My sun, moon, and rising all being mutable, I'm hearing this and going, oh, I feel like I need to pray tonight. But
I've got Sag rising, I've got a Gemini moon, so maybe Miguel will get a dog dad, but we'll see.
I know. One can only hope, right? I mean, right there with you. Okay, so do you want to move on to Pluto?
Yes, we got to talk about Pluto.
Oh man.
So it's a big deal when Pluto changes signs. It doesn't happen very often. Saturn takes 3 years to go in a zodiac sign compared to, let's say, the sun, which we all know the sun, it takes 30 days to go through a zodiac sign. Pluto can take anywhere from 11 years, which has already happened. It was Pluto in Scorpio. My joke is like, this is proof of a benevolent universe. Pluto spends the least amount of time in Scorpio. To 30 years in Taurus, which will not happen during your lifetime. So, take a sigh of relief, Taurus, but that's somebody else's lifetime to deal with. So Pluto, since 2008, has been in the sign of Capricorn, a sign that it was previously in Capricorn the 1760s and 1770s. Yes, 18th century. So as you can imagine, wait, that's 250 years since Pluto was last in these signs. So going into Aquarius, which it did in 2023, from March 23rd of 2023 until June, I think 10th or 11th, but it will go back into Aquarius in 2024. First on January 20th, it goes from January to September 1st, it's in Aquarius, it goes back to Capricorn, and then by November 19th, it's fully into Aquarius for 20 years. So how can we interpret this? Because honestly, 20 years is such a huge amount of time. Even if I had said to Capricorn in 2008, like, hey, Capricorn, get ready, your life's going to change. Like, there would be no way to really fully comprehend what that means. And Aquarius is like, wait a second, my life's going to change. Probably. But I think we need to get a little bit into Aquarius to really get a sense of what this time and what this transit means for us. Whether we are in Aquarius or Aquarius rising, whether we have strong Aquarius placements in our chart or we're a fixed sign. But wherever that part of your chart is, Aquarius, and you're thinking, but I'm not Aquarius, but you have Aquarius someplace in your astrology, that now you're going to see a different hand on the clock pointing towards Aquarius. I need to be real about Pluto. And I'm saying this with complete respect for the planet because it wants us to take a hard look at ourselves. Its role is to get us to grow and evolve by any means possible. Talk to a Capricorn. Ask them what their life was like in 2008. Ask them what their life was like now. And in many cases, it's very different. Of course, a lot of things can happen in 15 years, but there's been a lot of life, a lot of miles in that last 15 years, even if we're not a Capricorn. Capricorn could be a relationship sign, it could be a career sign, it could be your health, it could be home and family, for example. So Capricorn, we're transitioning out of that time, and now we need to focus towards Aquarius. Now, as a macro placement, meaning, how do we all experience Pluto and Aquarius? It's hard to say because we can't use history as an exact understanding of it. The 1780s and 90s were such a radically different time than now. Of course, we can find similarities in all times. Human beings are human beings, but we're not the same consciousness. We're not the same level of technology. This was the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. It was a time of revolutions. So maybe you're thinking, oh, there's going to be changes politically. I don't know, but I do know that we're in a shift of era. It may mean that Aquarius, being the sign of social issues and social causes, systems, networks, science, technology, that the next 20 years will be a deep work on what these archetypes mean for us collectively. Personally, again, Aquarius could be your career sign, could be a relationship sign. And so you're beginning a 20-year work. And this is the part where I wanted to be real about Pluto, is that Pluto will show us the shadow of something. Typically, it's our unconsciousness around something. What is our unconsciousness around power, career? What is our unconsciousness about relationship, our home, our family, the past? There is a deconstructive energy to Pluto but there's also a reformative energy to Pluto. I mean, my sort of dark humor as a Scorpio Sag rising is like, Pluto can kill us. Pluto's going to annihilate us. But Pluto can give us the power to make a really big, powerful, positive change in our lives. It's to work with it the best that we can. It's to be compassionate with ourselves, compassionate with others, and to use this energy to start a reformation and a transformation. But we're just now starting to get the little hints and glimmers of what this next big 20-year chapter is going to be like. I think we'll all go back, in a few years' time, and we'll see a bit of a hinge between 2023 and 2024. To something coming to the end, something coming into the beginning.
Yeah, because I mean, and I appreciate everything you just said. I like how easy you make it to understand. So thank you for breaking it down for myself and for everybody watching. When I think about Pluto, I think about death, rebirth, and then what do you do from the ashes, right?
Right.
So I think that there is this trend I'm hearing already between Pisces and then the changing of signs with Pluto, that 2024 and the word bridge that you brought up in the beginning makes sense, because when I hear those things put together, it makes me think it's going to be a year of really going within, really figuring out what makes you tick, and potentially making some massive life changes.
Absolutely. And to go back for everybody, I realize 2020 is a little bit of a funny year to reference because it was such a very particular year. But Saturn went through Aquarius 2020, 2021, and 2022, first few months of 2023. Saturn went to Aquarius March of 2020, when everything started to change. But my point is that Saturn, I think, left us some breadcrumbs 2020 through 2023. And I was actually having this conversation with a client yesterday. The pandemic meant different things to different people. And I'm saying that very neutrally. I think those that really sat with the time and reevaluated and reflected and made some massive and yet positive changes in their life, I think that's the highest expression of the energy. That's just my feeling. I could be wrong. So how do we see a thread of something of the past few years that we revisit once Pluto's in Aquarius? Maybe we had an idea for something, Saturn in Aquarius, that we haven't fully acted on. We haven't fully implemented or made that really big transitional shift in our life. The difference between Pluto and Capricorn is Capricorn's an earth sign. So you feel it tangibly, physically. Even in 2008, we had the financial crisis. Aquarius is an air sign. It's intellect, ideas, ideology, systems, networks. So to go back to what you just said about Aquarius and Pisces, two signs that are at the end of the zodiac, collectively speaking, we are not dealing with the personal, we are dealing with the collective. And that's my feeling, maybe some astrologer thinks differently, is that Pisces brings us into the spiritual. Why am I here? What is this all for? What does this all mean? And you're the only person that can answer that question.
They make a good point. I remember getting downloads in 2019 about 2020, as a psychic and medium, and trying to figure out, well, what the heck are all of these symbols that are coming in, right? And so I think as people even stop and reflect about what the last 3 to 4 years have been like, there's just been so much monumental change, I think, for everyone. I don't personally know anyone that's come out of the last few years the same person. I mean, fundamentally, I think we've all really changed, but I remember getting a lot of downloads in 2019 about the rise of the light worker and how Earth is going to be really seeking to understand and have this connection to whether it's God, spirituality, religion, whatever, you know, the individual preference is. So it's interesting now to be coming into 2024 and feel like it's really going to be here for astrologers, you know, Reiki practitioners, energy healers, crystal modalities, whatever it is that the person has a passion for, wants to share with others. I think those practitioners are going to really be in the forefront of what's going on. It'll be also interesting to see, because of it being an air sign and things around social, community, tech, I do wonder if there'll be constraints or a reworking of what light workers can or cannot do on mainstream social media. So I would expect, just looking at it intuitively, that there will be changes to the way light workers are seen and experienced in the world. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. To put light out there and to use the term light worker or whatever word you want or term you want to use, there's always going to be an oppositional force. Even if the oppositional force is from within. To help, and I'm saying with absolute sort of humility, to be just my own small part in the shift in humanity is to provide whatever I can provide. It's not to say that I have all the answers, but everything just feels denser, darker, and I'm not a pessimist. I am, believe it or not, I am an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And it just, you know, everything just seems denser, darker. People seem more hopeless. And I remember back in 2016, everybody's like, when is it going to get better? When is it going to get better? And I was like, well, you know, we're in a time in humanity where each year it's going to be different. And I feel that it's going to actually be harder, because how do you rise consciousness if everything's easy? You don't. And I remember myself going into 2019, or more like going into 2020, and I called 2020 the wrecking ball year. And I remember thinking like, oh, people are going to think that I'm being so like dramatic, and I'm just like trying to like get likes and attention. I was like, no, guys, like 2020 is the wrecking ball year. And I hate to be right. And I said, look at March of 2020. I have it on video. Look at March of 2020, because that's going to be the month where it all shifts. And sure enough. So we're in a time where that, and you made a comment, although it was offhand, about time, and time feels so funny, because it does. Time is an energy. Of course, astrology measures time, but how we live time is very, you know, distinct and individual. Time feels very sped up at the moment, feels very contracted and condensed. So how do we share something that hopefully gives people just a different perspective and opens up their eyes and gets them to maybe see that there's different choices? Not that, and I'm saying that very neutrally. And it just feels like there's been more energetic opposition, not like maybe physical opposition on social media, but it just feels like more energetic opposition. Where it just feels like Instagram's not growing as much. This is about social media. You know, it's just more about being able to share and put things out there. And I just, you know, keep doing my thing and hope that it's exactly what needs to be put out there. Of course, in integrity, hopefully integrity. But yeah, I mean, your point about technology, something that I saw in 2023 was like almost as if on cue, like suddenly everybody's talking about AI. Aquarius is the sign of technology. So we will see both sides of technology over the next 20 years. We will see the highest expression of technology, where technology helps us to connect, it helps us to evolve, it helps us to hopefully solve world issues. We also see the lowest form of technology, the shadow side of technology. So that's not to say that there will be cyborg wars. I don't know. So we just need to make sure that we're not doing Aquarius as inhumanity, because Aquarius definitely has the shadow side of inhumanity, and that we're doing Aquarius as the side of humanity.
Yeah, when I think about Aquarius, I think about the higher form of it, which to me feels like community. And what are you doing to help improve? Or what are you bringing to the community that you're in, or the community you've built, the family you've built, whatever that looks like. But I also get a lot of psychic downloads around AI and around tech and around diseases that I believe will be cured during, Pluto and Aquarius. I think there will be a definite increase in how smart hackers will get during this time period. So it may even feel like you're living in a simulation sometimes, I think, with Pluto and Aquarius, but that's just my own perception of it. And I'd love to hear in the comments if anyone feels that same way, if you wonder what the heck is going on, because some days I will look at my life and my surroundings, or even when I'm in a conversation with somebody and I'm like, this feels like I'm in a simulation. What is going on? So it wouldn't surprise me even if there's new discoveries that come out during Pluto and Aquarius about religion or about scientific discoveries about other planets or alien life or whatever that looks like, because it just feels like I'm in a sci-fi movie sometimes.
It'll be like Star Trek. I don't know if you watch the show For All Mankind. It's on Apple.
I have seen some of it. I have a gentleman I know who's one of the actors on the show that I met, and he's incredible and very spiritual. And so I tuned into. It's a great show.
It's a fantastic show. And sometimes I forget that it's not our timeline. So when I see things about NASA, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to Mars. Oh wait, that's the show. But to that sort of point, maybe we will see more interplanetary travel, a different relationship with space and technology. I always think of Saturn Aquarius in the 1960s, not just civil rights, but also the space program. It wasn't until the 69 when we went to the moon, but you really saw a lot of the stuff, I think, in the consciousness of, and I'm saying this from an American perspective, this sort of like, okay, we're gonna do this thing, we're gonna go into space, we're gonna go to the moon, even though it took a few more years. So I grew up on a diet of Star Trek as a little kid, and as an astrologer, I wanted to be an astronomer first. It just kind of veered into astrology. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll get to travel. Maybe we'll get to open up the stars more. I personally, and I'll explain in just a moment, I feel that this is a simulation, but I feel that it's spiritual in nature. I can only speak for myself. I'm a spirit and a body. I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, I'm here to evolve, but I'm not just an individual. Aquarius makes us aware of the collective. And so that my actions, my choices don't just affect me, they affect other people. So there may be a real kind of crunch for everybody where we have to really become aware of the collective and the collectivity of our choices. I don't know, maybe somebody disagrees with me. That's just one take on how to look at it. But we can't survive unless we're all in this together. And maybe that's the hopeful part of me.
Yeah, I think a lot of good will come out of it. But like any transit cycle, planet sign, like there's high form, low form. So
Of course, it's life.
here we are. We're gliding through the universe on this Earth rock. So we're just going to keep doing it.
It's just spinning, and it seems like it's not spinning, but we are on a spinning rock in the solar system, and that it's rotating the galaxy, and that galaxy is rotating. It takes 26,000 years for one great rotation. So yeah, just another day at the office, so to speak.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so we've talked about Saturn and Pisces. We've talked about Pluto moving into Aquarius. Is there anything else on your radar that you want to talk about as a big piece for 2024?
Always look at the nodes. Astrology is just looking at a clock. Astrology is just a way of measuring time, not just your time. But Saturn is one hand, Pluto is another hand. Of course, we talked about hands changing in the clock in 2025 and 2026. The nodes, which a lot of people don't know about, maybe you do, but the nodes are these 2 points in the sky that make eclipses happen. They move counterclockwise to or against the astrology. So they are presently in Aries and Libra in 2020. Gosh, what year is it? 2024. They will go into Virgo Pisces in 2025. But so that means that the eclipses by and large are happening in Aries and Libra in 2024. So that means a lot of the action, a lot of the change, in addition to the things that we've been talking about. And it's even for you to go back, not you, but the people watching, to go back and, what was going on in your life in April, May of 2023? What was going on in your life October of 2023? These were when we had eclipses, and typically life can pivot. For some people, there's major life events that can happen around eclipses, not all. And if you are an Aries or a Libra, it's a very dynamic year for you and a dynamic time for you. We will, however, have one eclipse in Pisces. And there's that sign again. One eclipse in Pisces in 2024 on September 17th. It will be at 25 Pisces, so near the end of the sign. But that eclipse, along with Neptune in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, but also the eclipses in Aries, we're seeing that sort of alpha omega. We're seeing at the end of the zodiac, beginning of the zodiac. So there's a sense of something new and that's happening in 2024 that I think is preparing us for Saturn going to Aries 2025 and 2026, where those new things become real and concrete. So my question mark as an astrologer, also that eclipse is on my south node, but my question as an astrologer, it's like, okay, well, where are we really, like, where's that Pisces energy really coming in? Because Pisces is such a subjective sign. How I feel Pisces is not the way that you feel Pisces. Of course, it speaks to spirituality, but for some people, it's hopelessness and feeling lost, and that's a big statement. But Pisces is the two fishes. One fish goes this way, back towards spirit, towards the light. One fish goes the other way. And so you can really see those stark polarities with Pisces. So in my heart of hearts, I hope that people are kind to themselves and kind to others and invest in their own, kind of spiritual growth and healing, that they take time out, they not push themselves, they sort of sit and are reflective with the changes that are happening instead of being reactive or even hopeless, because that's a very heavy energy that is part of the Pisces archetype. And I hope that it's not hopelessness for some people in 2024. And so to go back to the point about the eclipses, that eclipse in Pisces in September 2024, that might activate all of that energy, because Neptune's been in Pisces since 2011, 2012, but Saturn's finally, not quite in 2024, but Saturn's almost catching up with Neptune. So something, ironically, I say ironic because Pisces is an immaterial sign, but something really wants to take shape and take form in 2024. Maybe we can't quite see it. Maybe it's very existential. Maybe it's a deeper search for meaning and purpose in our lives. Maybe we need to get clean. Maybe we need to go on retreat. Maybe we need to spend more time with ourselves, but we're all going to live this time differently. But I'm saying this to be intentional about this time and to do Pisces in a way that feels right for you and is kind and compassionate for you, because we all hold a lot of energy within us, and sometimes it's not peaceful. We're carrying the past. We want revenge. We want people to be held accountable. And it's not to say that there shouldn't be justice in our lives, but I think the greatest act of kindness of Pisces is to just let it go. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing that can happen to somebody in 2024.
I wrote down 2 questions that we can consider asking ourselves with this big Pisces energy for September of 2024. Where is your faith? And whatever it is you want to have faith in, right? It's yourself, it's something outside of yourself, with God, spirituality, whatever it is. Where is your faith? And then the second question is, how can you honor the light within yourself? Because when you say hopelessness, or, I mean, I've got a Pisces moon, so I get it. And it can go in waves of different feelings and emotions and how you feel about yourself. And because I've just seen so many people already in 2023 and then the last few years that feel down and out, or feel like there's nothing left, you know, that it's all downhill from here. I've seen that and heard that from people over these last few years, that it's saddening to think that we could hit another peak point of it, where people may question, who am I? Why am I here? In a way that could feel a bit more dark or a bit more heavier emotionally. And if you go into those depths, what do you have as resources or people around you that can help remind you of your light, to pull you back out of that?
And that's a really good point. And I hope that everybody has some sense of structure. Saturn, even though we are going a very Piscean time, because Pisces, and especially Neptune, brings us into our own abyss, which is like the deepest depths of ourselves. My dog is digging on the couch. And I was saying this as a water sign, you know, the water energy, you feel things so deeply. And the thing about Pisces is that it's not my emotion, Cancer, it's not our emotion or shared experience, Scorpio, it's a collective emotion. I've just noticed that whenever there's a lot of Neptune, Pisces energy, there's something that really demands, or because it's not an invitation, demands that we really open our hearts, and that something happening thousands of miles away can feel so close to us. So it's not to necessarily get pulled into things. Of course, there's a lot of really terrible and difficult things happening at the moment. It's to be an observer the best that we can. And how do we find our faith? How do we find our hope? And as you said, the light within, because each and every one of us has that sacred spark. That's a little esoteric, but we are talking about Pisces. And that energy is immutable, as opposed to the mutable signs, but it's immutable. And if you can have whether you have it within yourself or have it structured with a group of people, to sit and discover that within yourself, maybe that's what can kind of get us through this passage, because it is a passage, and Pisces on some level is a sign of passage. The water signs are the signs of transition. They transition us from one stage of life to the other. Pisces transitions us from our physical life to whatever is beyond this world, whether you believe in spirit, whether you believe in not, you know, whatever. So there is an energy of transition, bridge, but also Pisces is grief. It's a shared collective grief. I'm not a pessimist, but it's to sort of sit with these energies, not to have them be constructive and not destructive, because that's the two sides of the coin. And I just think we've every year it's like we have to be more and more on our toes. Look, I'm tired. I'm tired like all the rest of you. I want a vacation. You know, maybe I'll get it in 2024, but we're just, you know, what do they say? May you live in interesting times.
Yeah, you could say that again. One thing that I wrote when you're talking about Pisces, because it is the collective, it's the last sign of the zodiac. if you find yourself, especially as more and more planets move into the sign of Pisces, if you find yourself in an emotion that you can't put your finger on, and you've reflected and you've asked, like, where is this coming from? You might even want to add the question in, is this mine?
That's a very good point.
Because if it's collective and we're dealing with all of this Pisces energy, you could literally be picking it up from something you watched or someone you were standing next to at the grocery store or somebody you work with, not even realizing perhaps that they were carrying that energy with them. But now that you've been exposed to it or around it, that may become part of your energy field, and it might not even be yours. So the energy of Pisces could lend itself to clearing rituals, clearing yourself, clearing your energy of your body, your pets, your house, your car, and figuring out how you want to do that, whether it's mantras or chanting or singing bowls or crystals, or there's a variety of things you can use like sage or Palo Santo. But how do you want to make sure that your sacred space is yours as we start getting more and more into the Pisces world?
So I'm going to add on something, again, not a pessimist, but what you may be feeling isn't just the person in the grocery store or your next door neighbor. It could be something happening on the other side of the planet. And everything Pisces is the wave. And the things that happen in distant, faraway lands, it's a ripple that's even happening right here and right now. And that's not to sound hopeless. That's just to be observant and aware that we are in a time where we need to make sure we are very anchored and grounded. One of the greatest clearing things you can do is to be completely anchored and grounded in yourself. That does take some ritual, that takes some practice, that takes some breath work, that takes you carving 5 or 10 minutes out of your day. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time, and just connecting to your breath. I use the pulse. The pulse is a really fast and free way to connect with your nervous system, to connect back, put yourself out of the head and back into the body, into the heart. Feel the heartbeat. Go into the heartbeat with your breath. Feel between the space between your heartbeats, and start to regulate yourself so that you can navigate the ups and the downs. Of course, have your own space. So not everybody has that luxury, but to create, whether Pisces, Saturn and Pisces is an altar, whether it's just a chair in a room and a candle, some sage, or some, I'm partial to frankincense, and just make sure you're cultivating something, giving time and space to something. Saturn is time and space, so that that part of you can grow even with the ups and downs. And whether it's somebody in your office having a bad day, or even something that you watched on television, you need to just, Pisces as the opposite sign of Virgo. Virgo is a detox. So how do you detox from the things that just are not nourishing your spirit? It's not to close yourself off from the world, but it's just to be very, protect your energy, be very compassionate with your energy, have good, healthy boundaries, because Pisces doesn't always have good, healthy boundaries, and just know what you are capable of and what you're not capable of. And that's the part that can feel overwhelming, because you look out into the world and there's so many things that are happening, and either it's overwhelming and you're just like, nope, I'm done, or you're hopeless, or you literally like just can't even deal, so you just binge watch Netflix. So there's going to be a lot of tuning out with Pisces energy. Hopefully not through substance, but tuning out comes in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it is going to be one heck of a year. And I won't put you on the spot about 2025 unless you want to
Go there.
maybe just as we begin to close out today's episode, if there is, I know you said that there'll be big shifts, 2025, 2026. is there anything else as we move through 2024 that we can just keep in the back of our minds of what's ahead, knowing that so many of us are feeling that 25 and 26 are just going to be a rockin' few years. So anything you want to lend to that?
The funny thing is that astrology doesn't follow our calendar. So even though we have this like, okay, now it's 2024, the astrology has its own calendar system that overlaps. So Pluto finally going into Aquarius in November of 2024, then we get to, got my like little post-it note, then we get to Neptune going into Aries and March 30th of 2025, just until October. That's followed by Saturn in Aries in May. That's followed by Uranus in Gemini in July. It's already happening in 2024. Different hands on the clock means that the collective time is changing, that the collective priorities are changing, that the things that we need to focus on and even need to learn is changing. What that is, I don't know. I personally feel that we're just in a time in humanity where we need to become more aware, more conscious, more aware of our connectivity as human beings, and hopefully make a collective shift, but maybe other people feel differently. Is that really a focal point, especially in 2025 and 26? Maybe not, but these are, Uranus is an outer planet, so it takes 84 years to go through the entirety of the zodiac. It spends 7 years in a sign. Neptune takes 160 something years to go through the entirety of the zodiac. It spends 14 years in a sign. Pluto, like I said, 11 to 30. So these are 3 planets that boom, boom, boom. Saturn, 3 years, but followed by Saturn, then Jupiter changes signs every year. It just begs a question that doesn't have an answer right now. And I'm not saying that ominously, because at the end of the day, I believe in what I just said to you. It's like, as long as you're completely centered and grounded in yourself, of course, things are going to happen, whatever, your life is going to happen, even if it's mundane, but to find that center point within yourself so that you can connect to your own inner GPS, so that you can go through this time and you're able to see above it, not to be disconnected from it, but to be able to be a higher vantage point and make the decisions that are not only best for you, maybe best for your family, maybe best for your relationship, and even best for your community and even the collective.
How can I go above and see what's actually happening?
And when we are in that space that's above the emotional plane, which you can cultivate that through your breath, through meditation, you see things and you don't get pulled by it. You don't go into the fear mode. You don't go into freak out. You don't go into, oh my God, what's going to happen? You're just like, oh, okay, cool. This is happening. No problem. But I can only speak for myself, but I'm not perfect at all. But I really try to cultivate that internal point within myself, because I know, not just as an astrologer, but I know as a medium, that we are in very up and down times.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that by the time we get to the early 2030s, I think all of our lives will be drastically different than where we're at right now. So, pull us out 10 years into the future, and I think so many things are going to happen at warp speed that 10 years from now, it's going to look radically different. And I also feel that the 2020s will be looked back on by future generations and talked about, and kind of like how some of us talk about different war periods that have happened in history, or the Great Depression, or the financial collapse of 2008. There's these milestones. And I feel like the 2020s are just going to be so massive in so many ways that we may not know ahead of time intentionally, because I do believe we're here as spiritual beings, right? So maybe we can't find out all of the details in advance because we need to go through them to experience them to make the changes or the evolution that's necessary for us being here on Earth.
Absolutely. And Pisces can pull back the veil. And I'm just saying that on a personal level, it can help us to really question our lives in a very meaningful and productive way, and to make priorities so that going into 2025 and 2026, we can actually take action on these priorities.
And
Hopefully.
you can be like me and just go build a tiny house somewhere and live off the land. It has crossed my mind, Katie. It has crossed my mind.
I was like, all right, it's just me and my dog against the world, all on his internet. But yeah, I mean, I can only just, my own life, the past 3 years have been, geez, Louise, brutal, but I'm still alive, still here, still have hope most days.
And if we're breathing, we're meant to be here and we're not done. So, and I love the technique that you reminded us of checking in with your pulse. And even if you just do that for a couple of minutes and close your eyes and just feel the pulse and feel your breath. I teach a weekly meditation class, and it's amazing what the breath can do to help you just calm down and get clarity. So lean into all of the tools that you need for 2024. As I mentioned, Katie Sweetman's on social media, YouTube. Make sure you go check her out, subscribe to her YouTube, subscribe to this one too, so you don't miss any of our updates. But lean on the people that you trust, or people that you want to learn from and evolve with. And where is your community, Aquarius community, as we go deeper and deeper with Pluto and Aquarius? So all sorts of interesting things to consider for 2024. Katie, can you mention your website real quick?
Sure, it's empoweringastrology.com. And I even have a webinar for the astrology of 2024. It's 3 hours. So it's a bit of a deep dive, including a sign by sign look, but it's to sort of, go more deeply into some of the things that we talked about today.
Yeah, hopefully a lot of the people watching today will go and check that out. Because like I said earlier, I like the way you approach astrology and break it down in a way that we can understand. So everybody watching, we appreciate you being here with us. And if you would like to drop us a comment and let us know what stood out to you or what you're looking forward to from 2024, we'd love to hear from you. And I'll include all of our show notes below, and the cats are going crazy. So I think it's time.
Time. Dogs are finally asleep, so your cats are going crazy. But yeah, no, it's all gonna be great. And I'm not saying that as a cynic, but maybe Pisces opens our hearts, and maybe we need our hearts opened. So,
and so it is. And so it is. Katie Sweetman, thanks for joining me. And we'll see everybody next time on the next YouTube video. So we'll see everybody soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.